everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Tube, where it's our show where we review things in the world of television. Sometimes we're normally doing episode-by-episode reviews of currently on-air shows, or sometimes we are doing these definitive season reviews of seasons of television that I want to talk about. Today we are talking about the third season of Reacher, the Amazon Prime hit that has taken the world over. We had just wrapped a episode review series of it just a couple weeks ago, so you want to go check that out. It's where we basically reviewed each and every episode, fully broken down to the last core component, and there you go, Bob's your uncle. But here it is, we're just reviewing the entire season, because while every episode may seem great on its own, what is the whole season is, because there's a difference between reviewing an episode and there's reviewing a season, because the season you're telling the whole story. How does it all coincide? How does it all flow together? And that's kind of what we're here today. And just for clarification, this is a spoiler-filled review. This is our definitive review for Reacher Season 3. If you have not yet watched Reacher Season 3, this is not the review for you. My recommendation is go watch it. It's a very great season. Just a little minor spoilers on that front. And go back over there. And then also watch our episode-by-episode reviews of it. We reviewed all 8 episodes for your convenience. It's now available on our playlist, so go check that out if you're more inclined. But if you are going into this, as I haven't watched it yet, you waited for the entire thing to be, bingeable. How does it rank up compared to the other 2 seasons, and where we go from here? So with all that being said, I will give a little section where we talk about it from a spoiler-free capacity if you do want to hear, was Reacher Season 3 for me, is it worth? Well, not really for me. Is it worth the binge? Was it worth the wait? How does it do? For me, to be completely honest with you, I think it's 100% worth the binge. I think this was by far. I've had a little couple critiques about season 2. Now that we look back on it, it was not necessarily a bad season. It's far from it. It was just a couple things that I feel like they were trying to transition from season 1 to season 2, kind of when they knew playing a little safe in season 1, kind of trying to figure out our footing here, because again, you never know whether or not your show in its first season is going to be just a one and done, adaptation of it, or if it's gonna do immensely more than that. And obviously that was a really I want to say that was a big hit at the time, so they were able to take a couple of interesting swings in season 2 to kind of figure out where they need to land it. And keep in mind, if you're unaware, if you're confused by this point, Reacher is based on the Jack Reacher novels, aka books, that have existed. It is mostly an anthology series. Mostly, while it is one consistent core character, each book tells a different story. Each book has a different cast of characters, has very little to no kind of move along of a plot. So basically, you can just grab any of the Jack Reacher books and kind of just view it as an independent story. But it does obviously exist in the life of Jack Reacher, but it's not necessarily something that you have to necessarily read the first book to understand book 22. That's not how it works here. And that's kind of how the differentiation comes with the TV show, because there's going to be a little bit of a connective tissue. You can't really not have it as simplistic as just doing it pseudo anthology style. I don't think so nowadays. And which I view season 1 as they were trying something different from the movies that were starring Tom Cruise as the lead, and then going into season 2 they were trying to figure out does Reacher work better as an independent agent, or is he more of a team player? And while season 3 was being filmed at the time season 2 released, so I don't quite think that was necessarily this was the result of season 2. I have a slight feeling they kind of knew okay, well, as much as we love seeing Reacher really jive with a team, a set of individuals, he has mostly kind of operated on his own. And that's kind of, where we were in season 1. We're he had the sheriff and a couple of the representatives from the sheriff's department. Mostly that was kind of him just kind of really doing his own thing, kind of only having to use them whenever he felt stuck on somewhere and needs some sort of assistance, driving a vehicle or trying to get a free meal, basically speaking. Where in season 2, he was more these are my compatriots. We're part of one unit, so he could kind of depend on them and not have to really worry about having to protect other people. I think his strongest compliment is when he notices that this guy can handle himself, or she can handle herself. I don't need to get involved. I can take care of things. What I got to do, and they'll take care of themselves. I think those are the type of people that I really want to work with. So I feel with this season particularly, I do want to say it's kind of a little bit of a merge between season 1 and season 2. And again, what they're adapting these books out of order, so it's not quite, frankly, the same order as we're going in with here. But I do believe this kind of had an element of both of them, where like Reacher was still kind of still part of the team, large and not. But I think this is also a season that he felt a little bit more independently, where like he got to flex a little bit more of a direction he wasn't quite used to. Whereas the undercover aspect of it, and I feel like that was like one of my main draws when we got the official announcement of like what was the season going to adapt, what book was going to be, and I did a little minor research on the book, so it was going to be like an undercover mission. I was actually really curious to see because you have Jack Reacher played by the fantastic Alan Richardson going undercover. It's not the same. It can't be done. Obviously, we've seen people like Arnold Schwarzenegger do it, so it's not entirely out of the world. But I'm just like, I was just very curious, knowing Jack Reacher as a character for 2 seasons, how was he going to really handle it? And obviously, of course, he was in the military, so I'm like, I wouldn't put it beyond past him to have some experience of staying undercover, being low key about it. I wasn't entirely out of it, but that was just my curiosity factor. It was definitely something different. He was not going to have those constant updates. He was essentially operating as kind of like a solo agent at time, which I think is where Reacher thrives, because we get to really see him kind of figure things out. He is a problem solver. He kind of has to think on his feet because again, as a drifter, you never really know what problems you're going to face. The next minute, the next hour, the next day, the next week. You never really know. You're going to have to always be ready to go on that front. And I do believe that they had this season, like they picked this book to kind of remind us of Reacher is a super capable guy, even with the biggest of odds, no pun intended, when we get to like the full spoilers of it. And that's kind of where I was really more the more intrigued about it to get back into it again, to kind of really see Reacher kind of operate as his own entity fully. What I will say on the counterpoint when it comes to we got the premise. Obviously, we got a specific team this year. For his team, I enjoyed it a bit. Not to perfection. I still believe the special operators from season 2 are still my favorite, but I do believe this team is still as whimsical and attentible as the season 1 crew. But then when it comes to the villains, mind you not, I would say for that front, I'm a little bit mixed on it. I'm not quite, wasn't really vibing with some of them, but I was vibing with a couple other ones, which like I said, I'll get to more in a moment. But overall, the perspective of the season was a little bit different because again, you had to see Reacher really be isolated, to his who's on his team, who was on his team right next to him. He was kind of operating more solo than not, and I believe that gave him a little bit more opportunities, to really kind of delve a bit differently with some of the characters this season, and kind of show a little bit of a different side of the Reacher that I personally believe we kind of are picking up from season 2 a little bit, where season 1 was 100% lone wolf Reacher, had no real contact besides Neely. And then going into season 2, where he kind of had to kind of rebuild that commandery again, because it had been a few years since the last time he teamed up with people. And then this season is just him really trying to figure out how is he going to get through it. He's stuck in the situation, he's going to get through it, but how is he going to do it? And I think that was the more attractive part for the season, in my opinion. So with all that being said, from a spoiler-free capacity, I very much enjoyed Reacher Season 3. This is definitely worth the bid. If you have a whole day, like a whole morning to evening, 100% this is a show that I would recommend binging from start to finish. This definitely was a ride from start to finish for nearly all of it, and I was very much pleased with the final product of it. And by the time we roll credits on this one, I feel even more wanting of season 4 right now. I want to see more of Reacher. I already want to have season 4 to be reviewed upon by me next week. I would love that, but we don't even have that shot yet, so I can't really control much of that. But it'll be a while since we get to see him again. But for the time being, that's my wholehearted spoiler-free review on it. That's my wholehearted spoiler-free review on it. If you want to go a little bit deeper to that, again, make sure you watch the show itself. It's available on Amazon Prime, the whole 3rd season. Hopefully down the road it'll be available on home media, which they have done with the first 2 seasons, and as well as you can check out our episode-by-episode reviews, where we, again, reviewed each and every episode more into detail. So to go check that out as a companion piece. But with that being said, last warning before we go into the spoiler territories, you have been warned. Okay, here we go. So when it came to the overall premise of season 3, again, this is an undercover tale. Season 1 was more about um, vengeance, no, revenge slash vengeance. I mean, to be fair, all these seasons have kind of had some variant of revenge. I think this one was pure revenge. Like the whole gist of it had it not so because he has like some unfinished business. Because when does Reacher never have unfinished business with someone? Like let's be completely frank there. Where we see Reacher once again just continuing his lone wolf shtick and trying to continue to just survive in this world, and now being roped into a new, larger, darker conspiracy. Not like real conspiracy, but more like something that does directly involve him, but having to evolve it, having to be in a bigger place for it, which I think it really had its moment of intrigue. Let's say it to that much. When it comes to the story aspect, again, like the whole undercover angle, again, it wasn't what I was expecting. Again, when you have more than 20 books to adapt, there could have been really different angles. They could have easily just played it safe, doing another season 1, season 2 thing where it is just part of a larger mystery, nothing really detailed. But this being throwing Reacher in the middle of it, I think it was a very interesting angle to explore. Because again, the Reacher's team this season, well, not like real team, more like people he's working with some of the basically off the books DEA agents just trying to make up for their mistakes. It creates a little bit of a commodity between them because again, Reacher obviously is operating outside the law. He's very much tired of this whole regime and just really wants to do what he wants, obviously following the basic laws and rules. But when it comes to the federal government stuff, he doesn't believe in any of that anymore. He just very much wants to do what he needs to do. If it involves killing someone, he's going to kill someone. That really is much it. And again, he's not really connected to anywhere, so that the aspect of him being a drifter kind of allows him to be liquidable in that manner, where we don't get to see him here, we get to see him over there, so it's kind of really hard to track the man. And in all honesty, when it comes to that, again, like I said for the last time with the undercover aspect, I do want to say it does bring a little bit more of him as a natural persona, where obviously he's always being himself. There's never a time where Reacher really has to 100% lie, and even here, it's not even that noticeable. He is filming some of the truth, but very much he is he does got a mission, and he's got to just pursue forward to get ahead of it. And I think that's where where it shines here. Where again, Reacher being thrown into a whole new cast of characters, stuff that he doesn't really especially want to be to, but he's here. He's kind of got no other choice, and the characters in some regards he's I feel like he never really got bored of it. Where one aspect he was kind of enjoying it, and the other aspect of it he was kind of marveling how very a little bit different this storyline, this sort of mission is for him. And it's not something that he's obviously it's not nothing anything solely new for him, but definitely it is something that that he wants to. Where the whole premise of the season, and because I was being vague terms there, where Reacher's back on the road as always. He finds this mysterious man that he thought he killed from many, many years ago, who killed one of his proteges before the special investigators started up. And now, despite, him killing him from the past, he's now back alive somehow. There's no resurrection bullshit. They explain to what the heck happened here. And now when he is trying to, figure this out on his own, he he gets targeted by this group of DA agents who are also hunting down the man on a different circumstance. And they're off the books. They have no choice but to be, as this is not a federally approved case. And considering the fact this guy is literally their only real means of actually getting in there and managing to defend himself. Because no offense to the DAC, where we have Duffy, we have the veteran officer on the team and the young agent. Because I don't remember their names, to be honest with you. That's just how quick they are. There really is no one that can really protect themselves, because again, you are dealing with a dangerous man who kind of operates in the shadows. No one really knows the exact lengths of how deep his operation goes. And Reacher, being of course the hulking beast he is kind of the perfect man here to be okay, well, you essentially can defend yourself, so we need you for this mission. So, which is again, it's great to hear that. It really is. And of course, Reacher doesn't. I'm pretty sure most times now Reacher doesn't want to do anything. He just wants to keep walking, keep moving, seeing new sights, keep just walking into random places, and that's about it. That's really all his day to day is really. So yeah, him being in this situation where like he's got a fake, which again, like when we begin the season properly, it's a bit scripted, it's a bit, it's obviously noticeably off to me as I watch her many different TV shows, and if you got fooled by it too, then yeah, go. But like when you're doing this type of show, 3 seasons in, there was only so much you can do with the character, and this is what was one of the moments where like as a viewer. I understand what angle they're going in, but this is just clearly not on point. This is not on character. Like there's this, it doesn't feel 100% believable. And thankfully, the powers that be, the right people that had to like listen and view, were believable enough when they had to like get Reacher into this sneaky operation to get him inside this very beautiful oceanside manor. To get him in there, like it wasn't that believable, to be honest with you. There were so many variables. This was a very sloppy case, but yeah, at the end of the day, sometimes you just gotta work with the scraps. You gotta work with whatever you got, and I think that's kind of where the benefit of these sort of missions kind of prevail, trying to find creativity, trying to figure out how do we get in there, how do we really figure this out, and when it all comes down to it, for the entire flow of the season, I did enjoy it a good amount. I think the undercover aspect was very interesting. Just kind of Reacher skating the line, but it didn't really feel like a clean line. It felt like every possible moment Reacher was just blowing his cover, but not to the way that ended the mission, but more like just it happenstance, like he just exposed himself to like really get the one up and like and being able to like kind of progress further in his mission. So I feel like that was the benefit there to be able to like have this all workable, to have this all function well properly together as the pieces kind of flowed into one another, especially as we went from episode 1 all the way to episode I think even 6, because that was kind of like the turning point where like we were kind of like kind of going back to standard Reacher fare a little bit, but thankfully with the grand finale type of approach. So when it comes to the overall, like I said, the flow chart of it, I think 1 to 6 and 8 are amazing. They're great. 7 is a bit of an outlier. I have gotten a little heat from it, but at the end of the day, I that's how my feeling is. Where like 7 was necessary to make 8 stand out as for what it is, but 7 kind of had to sacrifice a bit of itself, a bit of its identity, just to get the pieces set up to where they need to go. So from a flow chart, they did a 9 out of 10 for that. They they were close, but they kind of missed the mark a little bit towards the before the very end. But again, not too much derailed the whole season. It was more just like, the small little components about it. Then going into the characters, obviously we have our hero, Jack Reacher, who, again, like I said this before in many different prediction videos, many different season reviews, there really isn't too much you can say about the character itself in terms of a developmental side. Because again, from a character of a Reacher, he's already technically the developed character. He's not going to learn any real new changes, mind you. I did always have this theory at the end of season 2 that he is a little bit more emotionally opened up. Where season 1, he was kind of like, not cold. He still had a personality, but he never really tried to hook on to someone that well. Where like in his relationship in season 1 with the I think it was the deputy sheriff that he hooked up with. That was just a hookup. That wasn't really anything that was going to be his wife or anything. And then you have the other partner for that season. We're like, yeah, they're cool. They pals, but they ain't going to be like friendship wise. But then when we got to season 2, him seeing the people that he trained the most dying, and then seeing him having to reunite with some of his old team members, really got to like spend a little bit extra time with them. I always felt that theory that he grew a little bit more. He kind of opened up his shell a little bit. And I want to say season 3, he kind of did a little bit. Just a little bit more. The family he's intercepting, which again, he assumed to be the main crime family in the Becks. He does bond with the son a little bit. Not like as a pseudo father-son thing, just more like maybe... I call it more like the freak of the mighty dynamic, where like obviously Reacher is the mighty, and the kid, the son of the primary head of the Beck family, is more like freak. Really, he's scrawny. He can't really defend himself. He's a little bit more timid. So that's kind of how their relationship is. And Reacher, again, I don't think he has an issue. To be honest with you, he's the type of man where I don't see him being super stoic on like anything really, but like when it comes to this, it's like I think he opened up a little bit. He really did. It kind of felt like a nice to like have that sort of like bonding, in a different sense. They weren't bonding because they had things in common. It was more like just it in a way, they were both alone because Reacher very much is a loner. He never wants to be with anyone. He never wants to have a relationship. He never wants to like be with anyone long term than he has to. That's kind of just always just been his MO. And then the kid who very much is his father's busy with work. Everyone else around him is kind of like hired to be around him, so no one really ever wanted to be with him. So in a sense, he always felt alone. So getting to see that camaraderie between them, getting to see that really get to Reacher, really making him care about it is just, that was the sweet part to see. That was very much enjoyable to see from that standard, so to speak, about it. But overall, with this season, I don't think, like I said, Reacher doesn't grow that much as a character. He very much is still the same person. Like you saw the beginning of season episode 1 to the end of episode 8, he is very much the same person. I don't think there is too much change with him this season. He's very much the same. I think the only thing he probably learned is that fact that, despite him being a very big, very strong man himself, there's probably going to still be bigger and stronger men than him. And I feel like that was kind of like, if there's going to be any takeaway lesson from this entire situation, that was it, where the fact that there will always be someone stronger than you. There's always going to be someone bigger than you, and you kind of have to accept that. And that kind of when we get down to it, when I talk about that character, I think I kind of like made him a little bit more aware of the larger world. It doesn't faze him, it really doesn't, but it kind of makes him realize that there's a bigger world out there. There really is. And I also do want to say, it was probably the first time where I want to say 100% genuinely he had a crush on someone from real attraction. Now, let me clarify that, because obviously he's had, I don't even want to say a romantic interest. I'm not going to even say that much. It's more of like, he's always had some a female companion that he just manages to hook up with. Whether that was, like I said, the sheriff deputy in the first season, or one of his former proteges in season 2, and now the DEA agent in Susan Duffy this season. They're all a little bit different, obviously speaking. One is just a clear, casual hookup. They really have nothing in common about them. Then you have his former protege, where, like, again, he trained her. He clearly had the hots for her. There clearly was a doomy vibe around them, but they could never act on it. So I feel like that was just a lust. This felt more like, he genuinely had a crush on someone, because Susan was in many ways the person that he would love to be in a relationship with, or because she doesn't even want to be with him. He was like, I'm self-sufficient. I can take care of myself. I don't need a man really to be around me all the time. I just kind of want to just be with myself. And I feel like that's the type of person that he wants to be around, which I'm like, that's very rare for him to find, really, to be completely frank with you about it. But overall, besides that, so I do believe Reacher grew a little bit more, just like maybe 1% more, but not like to a whole cataclysm, like 90-degree turn in his character. No, that did not happen. But the character that Reacher is, it's already him himself is already an engaging enough character, from a different sort of element of humor to a more very powerful character that it just keeps the entire season going as a result. Him allowing himself to kind of be the force that's kind of like pushing the season along, literally speaking. Then you get to like while we do have other agents on the DEA team, there is Susan Duffy. She's the new de facto like main partner for Reacher this season, kind of having to go about the entire events of the story, where I will say from it, to be honest with you, I'm going to be completely frank with you. Again, maybe this is just me not having watched these seasons in forever. It comes down to that I know a little bit more about Susan Duffy than the previous two. Like I said, female partners that Reacher ends up hooking up with, but they also have their own storylines going on. I do believe like Duffy, I think, is the more developed one of the three. This is my opinion where I take away from it, where she is a DEA agent. She was working on a big bus back in LA. Sadly, her new young agent sadly screwed up the entire thing, and she accidentally sent one of her CIs inside the organization that Reacher's infiltrating to try and get some detail about them, and she kind of led her into the lion's den with no real way out, and she's kind of filled with remorse about that, kind of having to atone for her sins, where like she has to make time for the grandma, trying to spend time with her, trying to do whatever she can to be able to kind of rectify her decision a little bit speaking. And she's the type of person where, like, again, like, when it comes, if you're making comparisons like I am doing with the other ones, like season 1 was more like on the books, kind of skating that line sometimes with Reacher, and the season 2 is all through the do whatever you want sort of angle. This being kind of a little bit more in between. We're like, yeah, she acknowledges sometimes, like, yes, you got to play things by the book, but then there's most point where, like, she kind of goes, like, as soon as she meets Reacher, it's kind of like, okay, we are 100% going off the books now. We're killing people left and right. We're putting people in shipping containers. We're doing whatever we can to get the guy. Because at the end of the day, she has her own priorities. She has her own agenda. Kind of has her own mission, similar to Reacher trying to kill the main antagonist for the season. And in her case, is rescuing her CI. So it empowers her. It makes her kind of, be more motivated to do what she's trying to do. Obviously, not like really taking much of Reacher's bullshit, more like trying to, like, understand him, trying to be a little bit more, to get to that sort of point with it. Again, like going a little bit more above and beyond, more like, okay, I can't follow by the books. Reacher's got a point. We got to take things into our own manner to get justice, to get the right people to pay for the crimes that they committed. And I think that makes, a little bit more of a stronger, more engageful character, as much. The only downside is, again, like the way that how they have to balance the season, we don't get to spend too much time on her 100%. Like, what I mean by that is, like, when Reacher's kind of doing his thing, we are mostly focusing on his thing. And then her stuff does come as well, but it's not as, I don't remember too much of it compared to, like, the stuff we're getting with Reacher, to be frank with you. Then we get back to Neagley, which... Again, Neagley has a bit of a weird in-between role here where, like, it's more than season 1, but it's not as big as season 2. Season 2, she was very more common in it. She was a series, right, a main cast member in that one because she was in almost every episode. In the book they were adapting, she was very, 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 very heavily featured in. So this kind of being more like kind of going back to her season 1 role of, like, assisting Reacher from a distance before kind of really showing up to, like, help it out at the very end of it. I feel like that was the kind of, like, the right move to play here, because again, there are, for minor jumping off point here, they are going to do a show all about her next time we come back to the larger Reacher universe. So kind of giving her a little bit of a break to kind of like save all that material for her show is successful, because in season 2 we already learned more about her. We already kind of like allowed her to kind of breathe through each and every episode, where this kind of goes back to where season 1 was, where like she was only needed when needed, but like when she is needed, when we do see her, she's always making an impact. All of her scenes matter. Whether that is her brief communication with Reacher, her fight scenes with the hitman in her own private office, her returning back to Reacher's aid and Maine to assist out in the final matter. I will say than not, there is a bit of a less, importance on that. Whether or not that was purposeful to get her ready for her own show, I really don't exactly know how was the case with that matter, because I don't read the books. I'm not sure how the books were handling her character's appearance. But from what I could say myself is that, she very much had her own purpose on this mission, very much helping out Reacher as always being his, go-to assistant, going to partner whenever he needs like an outside matter taken care of. And I think that works out for the most part. Like less is more, and obviously we'll see how that format really works out when we come back next year. But at least for in her defense, I very much enjoyed her having her back as more of a supporting role this time around. Really trying just helping out the matter here, not really getting too much into the crazy moments, letting the other characters such as Reacher and the ones from this season kind of have their moment in sunlight. Because again, we got a lot of Neagley last year, and so it was kind of important for us to like still be reminded that Neagley's a badass, but at the same time allowing everyone else to kind of have their own moments of badassery. Then when it comes to the villain side of things, where this season we got more of the villainous side, more developed a little bit, or at least for me, more that I can remember. Season 1, I can't even remember shit. I'll be completely forgot. I forgot the villains for season 1. I completely forgot. The villain for season 2, I know it's Peacemaker's dad. That's all I remember. I know he has a real name. I know the character, but I don't remember much of it. But I at least know Peacemaker's dad is the villain for that scene. I don't even remember like the crazy hitman, the employer he had. That we had that weird story arc in season 2. I don't remember much about him, to be honest with you. But this season we have 3 defining villainous positions. We have Beck, who is the front man for this organization, who does give up the aura of don't expect what you expect. Where in his case, he's just a traditional businessman, just trying to provide for his son as best he can. But sadly, he gets caught in the middle of this infiltration by an outside force of his own business, because he kind of has no choice in the matter. He doesn't really have much of a real stance, much of a real defense to be able to kind of fight back himself. And it's one of those cases where, like, appearances don't matter. Where, like, he's just like any other dad. Where, like, he loves his son. He just wants to defend his son no matter what, regardless of whatever angle he has to take. And one of this angle is kind of having to be more focused on the business, to make the big boss happy, so that nothing bad happens to them. That's kind of all his real want is on that matter. Even though, like, at the end of the day, it is, causing friction between him and his son's relationship, which has never been, great as is, considering the fact they lost the mother at such a young age, and then the son got captured by the same individual, by Quinn himself, to kind of get himself infiltrated into the organization by hurting his son. All these elements kind of really, it hurt him at the end of the day, but he had to do it to defend his son. And I do gain much of a kinship where, like, it's probably like the only character I give, like, only villainous character that I gave, like, I understand you. I know what you're trying to do. I don't forgive you, because I'm just a reviewer, but I'm just saying, like, from that perspective, you did nothing 100% truly wrong. You still did stuff wrong, but not like that. Then you have my favorite general character of all time. And his name is Polly, played by the Dutch Giant. He actually has an official name. His birth name is not the Dutch Giant, but he's known as the Dutch Giant. I think the moment that I found out that Reacher was going to have an opposing force be bigger than him, I was really 100%. I haven't snapped in a while. I was trying to snap. I have not had a much higher expectation of excitement, because I don't know what about it. It's just the fact of, like, having the hero fight an even bigger character is, I guess it's the Spider-Man versus Venom mentality for me, or the Batman versus Bane mentality, where, like, how is it possible? But it is possible, and there's that certain aura between them. And by the time we get to their first scene together, when we see Polly for the first time, it's even in person, like, because I've seen videos of the guy, just being a regular guy. I'm like, if I was to look him on the street, I would 100% be like, holy shit, this is a big freaking strong man. Like, there's no other way around it. There really isn't. Alan Richardson's only 6'3", and this man's over 7 foot. I'm like, damn. It's like, I remember just hearing an interview where, like, this is the one time Reacher felt like what all the people he kicked asses for felt like. That's what the energy feels like. Because, again, it's not that common to find someone taller than you, but at the same time, it's not common for, like, a tall person to find someone even taller than him. It's like, I remember there was one video where, like, Shaq met one of the world's tallest men, and he looked at him and was like, oh shit, like, that's what it felt like for everyone else to look at me like that. Like, damn, like, that's kind of like the scary portion of it. But no, besides that, no, I've known the actor. He's done a lot of more villainous, goon roles in the past. I think he did Indiana Jones. He was in Black Widow. I just saw Black Widow again with my partner not too long ago, so I got to recognize him. Like, but he was just like, a general, extra on that one. But, like, so him, like, really taking a prominent role here, having, his own aura, his own, personality. We're like, yeah, he's not a big dumb brute. He's a big cocky brute. Don't get me wrong, and he's definitely not a guy you want to be on the opposing end of, because I'm pretty sure even one of his, like, fingers alone, if you throw that's a punch, you dead. Like, that's just how I think of the character is, because for him, he has no redeeming quality. He's not like the gentle giant type. No, that he is an asshole because he's just an asshole, and him having the stocky frame, being tall to anyone around him, it's like even Reacher is just the sign of, like, this man is a behemoth. So no one should fuck with him. And you don't want to have him as your enemy. You're really, really dumb. So by the time we really get down to it, obviously, I think one of the core pillars for the season for me is the rivalry between Reacher and Paulie. I would say, for me, being biased, I would have loved to see more of that dynamic. There was episodes where I was hoping we get more scenes between them, but we don't, and it kind of bums me out a little bit. Like, I feel like if they had rewritten some of the stuff, because obviously it was expected we were going to get scenes with the other lieutenants of the organization. It wasn't going to be that hard, but, like, for me, I would have given more time to Paulie. I would have found a way to like put him in more scenes, put him doing more, because I feel like that was the thing that really entertained me when we got back into the house, when we got back to those real organizational scenes, was seeing more Paulie, seeing him doing his thing, kind of looking at Reacher, kind of like having this whole "I want to fuck you up" energy. I think the moment that Paulie meets Reacher, someone that's like, okay, he's not that short, he's kind of tall, but like he's still short to me. He's got some muscle to him. Like, okay, this guy could be a worthy adversary. He can very much, be someone that I could like actually, look at as maybe as a minor equal, sort of thing. And then once like, Reacher having his own attitude, having his own personality clash with him is like, nah, this man wants to fuck him up. He really just wants to fuck him up. And like by the time we got to their final fight scene in the season, I'm like, hands down, that was the best one-on-one, fist-to-fist fight of the whole season, of the whole show, basically speaking. Like, that was very much like, I was on the edge of my seat. I very much was like, what is going to happen? Like, I knew Reacher wasn't going to die because we have season 4 on the way, but in this aspect of like, I just wanted to see how was Reacher going to take down this brood. Like, what was he going to have to do? And not going to lie, it kind of gave me the Michael Myers vibe, which I'm like, if you're getting that vibe from your own TV show that has no relation to it, you are succeeding on a level. And I feel like that entire dynamic carried a lot of the season, in my opinion. It wasn't that much. I wanted more, but it felt like when we did get it, for me, it just elevated everything. It just made me have that euphoric feel for it. And then going to the main antagonist, Quinn. I will say, yeah, technically speaking, I do prefer him, when it comes to, like, the villains of the Reacher, series. I think it's kind of difficult because, like, for season 1's villain, I don't even remember crap from him, so I can't really rank him. But when we're going up against Peacemaker's dad from last season, at least Peacemaker's dad from last season succeeded in really making me want him to die. Not in the way if he's done anything heinous, but like when Reacher says he's gonna do something, he's gonna do something. I was more than waiting of like seeing the scene where Reacher got to throw him off a plane. That was 100% the biggest payoff. Here was a little bit different. We're like, I didn't really know how you were gonna end Quinn's story, but like I really got to understand him as like the villain. Where like we got a whole flashback pseudo episode where Reacher kind of explains why does he hate Quinn in the first place? How does he have a pre-established connection with him already? And, where, like I said, Reacher was training a whole young protege. That was before the special investigators. He wasn't really down for that. He kind of just did it because he was forced to. And then slowly he kind of built a real camaraderie to her. Like, he actually was seeing her as like, okay, I can see you really being someone that I can actually fully respect. And then, sadly, tragedy happened when they were looking after this guy who was leaking information to black market sites, to illicit criminals. And by the time, they were about to close on him, and then, sadly, Quinn being a sociopath, he took the protege that Richard was training, tortured her, killed her, did a lot of heinous things to her. Off screen, obviously, we live in this current situation with television. We can't go too far, but Walking Dead and 13 Reasons Why kind of taught us that. But, no, from here, seeing the character doing the actions himself very heinously it made me hate him too. And it just, it made me understand to why Reacher 100% wants to take a bullet and shoot him in the head. Like 100%, that's why. Him playing the amnesia route here, I mean, I'm not really a big fan of that. I understand why they did that, to kind of keep everything going and obviously keep giving Reacher a fighting chance to it. That was the only part of him I didn't really like. Overall speaking, whenever he was in the room, like, he had his moments, but he didn't really have, like, the constant villain energy that, like, a Thanos or a Darth Vader would have, where, like, every scene he's in, he kills. Some scenes are great. So there was the scene where after Reacher got away, once he had to, like, break his cover and that kind of rejoin the DEA team, where he basically held Beck and his son at point blank, kind of pissed off at them, and, was willing to, like, get his son killed properly to teach Beck a lesson. Those were the moments that I'm like, okay, this is a man you don't want to fuck, especially when he has Paulie right in front of him. 100%, you do not want to, like, you don't want to get in the middle of that. You really, really don't. But other than that, it didn't really it didn't really have, like, he didn't really have too much energy for me to really be like 100% like, okay, this guy is a villain that I want to see more of. It really wasn't. I don't think we've had that villain yet. I think like he would be the closest, but I haven't seen a villain yet in this show where like he is carrying every single scene. For me, I don't see that. I really, really don't, in my opinion. Um, but other than that, when it comes down to it, when it comes to like how they told the story from the books, I didn't read the book, so I have no idea how the books handled it. But for me, for the type of story they were telling, I think they succeeded for the most part, being able to kind of tell this undercover tale featuring Jack Reacher, one of the most bullish men in the history of planet Earth, seeing we can be able to accomplish it. It kind of brings its own element of suspense. You never really know when, like, it's like every undercover tale that you get invested into. You never know when the cover's going to get blown. You never know when things are going to hit the fan, and you never really know how they're going to get out of it at the end of the day, because you just never really know. You never do. But between the characters, the enemies he was facing up against, his allies, I feel like this is the most well-balanced season of Reacher. There is a couple faults of obviously close. It's not perfect, but I do believe this comes in a very close proximity to season 2, where the quality was met, if not surpassed it a little bit more at times, just a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed it a lot. I was very much in for the entire ride this go around. I very much want to see more. I still do want to see more. Please film season 4 pretty quick, please. I want to see it quickly. I know people are going to say, just read. I'm like, I don't read. Trust me. My partners are trying to get me to read. I'm like, no, I don't read. I view. I see. Whenever I see like a book on a shelf and it has that sticker where it says, now a Netflix series or now an Amazon Prime film, I'm like, perfect. I'll go watch it there. But for me, Reacher season 3 is by far, I think, at times, most of it is the better season of the two. Others, I believe wholeheartedly, this is the most balanced season of the show so far. There's a little bit more room for improvement, but 100% the same energy that you get from season 1 and season 2. Continuing more of Reacher's tales throughout the world and putting him in an even bigger circumstance than before. That keeps you on the edge of your toes, for the most part. And it makes you wonder, you want to see more of Reacher, which that's all I have feeling after I wrapped up the show this time, where like, I want more. I want the next season right now. I want to see him again. But for the time being, with that all being said, yes, I do believe Reacher Season 3 is worth the binge. It's 2 thumbs up in my books. Very much enjoyed it for nearly all of it, and I cannot wait to see where Season 4 takes us next on this very crazy journey of ours. But with all that being said, let me know down below, what did you think of the 3rd season of Reacher? Did you love it? Did you like it? Let me know down below. We'd love to have a conversation with you about it. But again, that's going to do for me today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching our seasonal review of Reacher Season 3. Now available on Amazon Prime. You can now stream the entire show for its first 3 seasons right now on the platform. We will be back in the future with Season 4 and the Neegly spinoff, so stay tuned for that. But again, thank you so much for watching. This has been ActionX here with another episode of What's in the Tube. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's in the Tube besides these season reviews, right now we are doing Suits LA, Rookie, and Matlock reviews each and every week. Have the brand new episodes so far. But if you don't care about Reacher, if you've been joining me this far into the review season, thank you so much for watching. I do very much appreciate it. Sadly, this is the end of the row for now. We will return next time with the Neegly spinoff. Well, that's not the name of the show, but like it's the spinoff of Reacher. It's technically just called Neegly, but I'm just letting you know it is a spinoff. We will be covering that. That'll be hopefully our next new review series, one that does come out either super late this year or early next year. I don't know entirely yet, but we will return there. But for Reacher Prime, we will return in the future with season 4, whenever that case might be. And I'm very excited to do it. I'm very, very am. But again, that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So, again, if you're unaware, this has been Joe here from ActionX. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Like, favorite, share if you want to. Ring that bell and follow us on social media for more. But until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. As always, I do appreciate the support. But until we see each other again way down the road, please stay safe out there. Be good to each other. And as always, peace out.